Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're going to be talking about the big one. We're going to be talking about the spell Wish.
The more you know. That's what I think of for some reason. Every time I think Wish is the reading The More You Know star from like NBC back in the 90s or whatever. Unrelated, but yeah, we're talking about Wish. This is every spell in the game, Bob, except other 9th level spells.
Yeah. Are we done?
I mean, it does a whole lot more than that.
This is just does everything.
Literally, yes. This spell does everything.
All right. Well, do we want to get into that first? Like break up
all
the
right.
pieces? Yeah,
let's break. The spell does fundamentally 2 different things, and those 2 different things just encompass basically all you can do in a role-playing game. So the first thing is the easier thing to talk about. That's the set list of things that Wish allows you to do. And then Wish also has the fun backside of you can just ask your DM to do something that's not on the list. And sometimes you can't ever cast Wish again, which is good. That rider is very important. That 33% of the time, if you try and do something that's not on Wish, you can't cast Wish ever again. That's very important. Because otherwise the spell is just, you are the DM now and can do whatever you want. So it's good that it has little important caveats. Okay, so base value, what Wish is. You can use it to be any 8th level spell or lower. And if that was the only text on Wish, it would still be the best spell in the game. I want to make that abundantly clear. Yeah. If you were, when I say best spell in the game, like if you have 9th level spell slots, they're going to be spells that I think are like better, as in you're going to use them more. They have a bigger impact on the whole of the game. But like best spell that you can cast, most powerful thing you can do, it's this. And any 8th level or lower spell automatically makes this the best spell in the game. Like it just is. This is the most flexible thing you can possibly have on a character sheet of all time. Can't undersell how powerful. You get access to every resurrection spell. You get access to every teleportation spell. You get access to the bulk of damage spells. You get access to anything you really want to be doing. This does it. On top of that, it can make a 25,000 gold item that isn't magic, which I think is odd, but it doesn't make magic items for some reason. It can let you greater resto 20 creatures, which is pretty funny. You give 10 things resistance to damage, period. It's not duration. They just are now resistant to that damage type. So like you 10 creatures are now resistant permanently to slashing damage. And if you keep doing that after every long rest, hypothetically, you can just get resistance to all damage over like a couple years.
Permanently?
So, permanently, yes.
Wow.
You just have that now. Yeah.
That's nice.
It's pretty good. You can also grant 10 creatures immunity to a single spell or magical effect for 8 hours. That's kind of nifty. I think this mode's harder to use, but if you know you're against something that's like, oh yeah, that thing's definitely casting Meteor Swarm. Being immune to Meteor Swarm seems like a good place to start. And then you can also, this one I think is clunky, and I don't know if they wrote it right, but you can basically reverse time to fix a thing. So something that bad happened. So like, let's say your paladin was going in to kill somebody and you're playing with crit failures and they got a 1 and like died in a horrible cataclysmic event. You can reverse time and let that re-happen. So it maybe isn't a catastrophic destructive example. It is odd, but it also like you also can impose advantage and disadvantage on things. So let's say your Baylor crit your paladin and kill them instantly. You can reverse time and give them disadvantage on that roll. Mm-hmm. This one, I don't know. It's a reactive effect that's definitely ludicrously powerful. I've seen Wish cast like 4 times total. So I don't have a great grip on all of the power of all of the features, but that's because the spell does everything. So it's impossible to know the full scope and power of Wish, because how can you be prepared for that at the back half of this, which is you ask to do something and the DM can kind of figure out if that's within the scope of Wish, which is, what does that even mean? And then you do a thing that could break the game. So, yeah, that's Wish. And
those are the things that explicitly states it does.
Yes.
Is it? Are we done with that list?
Yeah. I mean, so the explicit things, so the things that you aren't making up, that is the full list. And it's, I think, important to know that you can do all of that and you don't risk Wish going away.
All right, let me ask you this. All right, so there are these explicit things that the spell description says it does, and that doesn't make you have a chance that it, your ability to cast it in the future goes away. But what about other spells that says, this can only be undone by greater restoration or Wish? Now that's Does that also
So
count?
yes, I believe that's covered in the up to 20 things are under the effect of a greater restoration, basically.
Okay.
Is basically what that covers. This is the ultimate dispel magic. This is the ultimate every kind of negation effect and proactive effect. This is the ultimate summoning spell, conceivably. You can just be like, hey, I want a Planetar Angel under my control forever. And that can be a wish that your DM might grant and say, yeah, sure. You now have a Planetar permanently under your control. CR 20-some monster that you just get to run around and kill people with. I don't know. Is that in the scope of a wish? It could be. It's up to your DM.
All right. Now, as for the things it doesn't explicitly cover, now this is where we get into different playing styles, I think.
Yes.
Because I think I think well, not a lot, but I don't know. There's going to be a certain percentage of DMs who are going to be the, I'm going to try and, misinterpret your literal articulation of the wish, which is exhausting and annoying.
It is exhausting for sure. I mean, it's also exhausting to have your players cast wish.
Oh, sure. But just to have somebody just deliberately seeking to screw up my most powerful spell.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I probably wouldn't take this if that was the sort of DM I had. That whole thing, even in movies or anything, that's always bothered me. I never liked it. One of my least favorite movies was Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser. Mostly because I hate Brendan Fraser, but
what? He's great in the Mummy.
I hated that because it had Brendan Fraser.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Anyways, that sort of thing irks me.
Yeah, that is absolutely that's something that I know a lot of people do really like the idea of. I don't know a lot of people that have been in that situation and found a great deal of enjoyment whenever it actually happens to them.
Are you talking about players or DMs?
Both.
Okay.
Like, I think there are a lot of DMs that like the idea of twisting the words to do something maniacal. And there are a lot of players that think they like the idea of having their wish get twisted and be like, oh, that's a neat little caveat I didn't think of. But it often ends up in this rules lawyery back and forth where you're like, well, that's not exactly what I said. This is exactly what I said. So your interpretation isn't exactly what it should be either. And you get because your DM, if we're being honest, they're a human being that isn't really going to be on average smarter or more powerful or more well-versed in Dungeons and Dragons most of the time than the players, right? There isn't going to be a big disparity in understanding of the English language for the most part. So
so that's the thing. A lot of times,
about it.
A lot of times it's going to be something stupid like, okay, you have a 30 strength, but you're on the moon, like, I guess you can tack on anything you want, but
that's another really great point to it, right? It's yes, you have a Planetar servant. That Planetar servant is on another plane of existence. Go get it. Right? You have to go now on this mighty epic quest to go do whatever the thing is you wanted to do to get the result. And
that one I can almost see as being kind of fun. At least that leads to a quest. But the one I'm talking about is just sure. You're dead.
Yep. Yes, I would like to be invincible to all damage. Great. You are now in a small metal sphere in the center of the universe that is literally indestructible. That's how you're invincible to all damage. And it's like, really? You just kill me? That's how this works?
See, you're being a lot more clever than I was giving a lot of DMs credit for. I'm just saying, okay, you have this effect that you want, and I'm going to tack something else stupid on it.
Sure.
You have 100,000 gold pieces, and you're buried under a mountain.
Sure. I don't think
that's how Bedazzled felt to me.
That's fair. I don't think that's even remotely within the scope of the spell, but I will acknowledge I think that will be, and what a lot of people will attempt to justify is things that other people find ridiculous that the person doing it thinks is fair and reasonable and part of the caveats of the language used. At the end of the day, I wholeheartedly agree. It's stupid and frustrating, and the vast majority of people aren't going to have fun with it. There will be some tables that really like the little monkey's paw element to it. I don't think that's going to happen often, especially whenever, like, if 1% of people playing D&D reach this tier and a fraction of them enjoy this kind of mechanic, it's like we're talking about literally a dozen people that enjoy this, right? Like, that's how small of an amount of people that are going to like that kind of wish play. So maybe don't do that. This is where we, I think, can easily transition into how should you run wish, and obviously it's going to vary table to table. I would recommend, and this isn't going to be popular, running it in one of two ways. Way one, there is no second half of the text. It is just the listed written effects. That's good enough. You don't need it to be anything and everything. Way
that's
two,
not going to be popular.
Agreed. Way two is as a Deus Ex Machina. Way two is, this is a spell you cast when the game is ending and it ends the game, right? This is something that is, and we cut to the 1,000-year after of a blossoming community and world from the heroes having saved and permanently removed this existential threat by wishing it out of existence kind of deal. That is where I think that part of wish should happen. This should be something that happens more than once a game because it ends the game. That's where I think wish fits nicely into.
The only way I think that should be the case is if the whole quest was, the whole party's goal was to go find something that granted them a wish,
as opposed to the wizard just taking it because they're a wizard and can do that.
Yeah, if you're gonna use it just to end the campaign, that like ending the campaign shouldn't be just like, all right, I can get 9th level spells now. The end. So
what I meant to preface, right, is this isn't something that makes the campaign end spontaneously, but is instead a tool brought to a planned final encounter, right? This is something that after you go through all of the countermeasures, after you go through a strategic plan to do the big climactic final fight of the campaign, then wish is the final, you defeated the villain, now we wish it into a tiny box for all of existence that it can never escape from, right? That is where I would put this as a utility, as like a narrative tool again, which makes it not even really a spell and more of just, again, something that you do to usher the end of a game by doing something nothing else in the game can do. If this can be the kind of thing where it's like, I literally can't think of another solution to deal with the 50 god pantheon that you are rising up against to fight, because this is the tier we're talking about, right? We're talking about level 20 super high magic 9th level spells have to interact with something, so it's going to be CR 30 plus monsters. That is where you say, okay, great, I wish the pantheon out of existence and the world returns to a state of happiness, and the magic flows through the weave or whatever and reconstitutes the world and has a big prologue that happens, and it's at the end of the big final fight. It doesn't end the big final fight. It is at the end of it, right?
Yeah.
That's where I think it belongs.
That's not a spell that you acquire and cast, though.
Agreed. That's not something that should be written in the game, but it is. Because the other use cases of it, there isn't another fair way to cast this, right? There isn't like, if this spell is so powerful that you have to risk never being able to cast it again, then we're talking about a spell that fundamentally has to reshape how the game is played. That is not going to be fair. There's having to go down and figure out, well, this is a 9th level effect. What is too powerful for a 9th level effect that can only be used once sometimes? That's not possible to conceive of. This is such a powerful effect that it's going to wildly vary DM to DM. It's going to be table to table, people having absolutely no bearings as to what is a fair wish, because it's just going to have such high ridiculous variance. Is having a CR 20 ancient white dragon under your control too powerful? Maybe not. I don't know. It seems pretty good, but at the same time, it's like, oh, well, I mean, it could just die to a power word kill after it takes 250 damage or whatever, right? Is there a CR limit to the thing you're allowed to have permanent control over? Is there, like, can you just wish a continent out of existence? Can you just, I wish to go back 1,000 years in time and that's your super powerful wish? Is that
well, probably not, because I mean, the time travel is already kind of explicitly stated, and you can go back like a turn or something.
Yeah, but like, then you have to, like, is the time travel element doesn't actually, it just moves you, right? You can consider it a time teleportation, and that doesn't necessarily break things in half. It just changes them. It just changes the encounter power and everything. I don't even think, like, I think I fundamentally disagree with you. I don't think that's really that broken compared to everything else happening here. I think it's one of the more tame options, honestly, especially if it's a one-way ticket, which it can be.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, where would you think, what is too powerful for wish in your opinion? I'm interested. Like, what effect would you be like, oh, I could never let that happen?
Wish.
Period. Just the whole spell. Yeah. Ultimately, this is a spell that is so powerful, I wouldn't recommend taking it. This is a spell that there isn't a good way to fix it. There isn't, like, even if you don't run that you pick whatever effect you want, this is still, like, we're talking about the secondary effect being so powerful we don't know how to handle it. That is the first effect, even without that second bit, is still the most powerful spell in the game, bar none.
Yeah.
Like uncontested, easily best thing you can do in Dungeons and Dragons. So the fact that like both are tacked on together, it just makes me think maybe don't ever cast Wish. Maybe this is something that a genie gives you one of because it's a narrative plot point, and this should be something that's definitely attached to a magic item and not a thing you can just, I learned how to grant wishes as my level 17 wizard. Like, yeah, this, I would go as far to say this is a mistake. That's how good Wish is. I get that it's iconic. I get that it's been in every edition since like all of time or whatever. This shouldn't exist in this form. It makes
I don't know if I agree with that, because yeah, like it does have the caveat. Just I don't know. Maybe impose some stricter limitations or any kind of guidelines to limitations.
I mean, there are some, but like you get into this weird arms race, right? Where short of permadeath, what becomes so worth it that the other thing is like a reasonable counterbalance, right? Because right now, every time you cast it, regardless of the effect, you're still suffering necrotic damage. If you then do more spell casting, it basically limits you to saying you have to take a long rest.
Yeah.
Which it means like this is something you're doing towards the end of a fight or in the middle of a fight if you don't really care about taking the D10 necrotic damage. Your strength being 3 doesn't matter. It just doesn't. That's not a meaningful part of here that like has an effect. And then you have to be like, well, what else could we tack on here to make it feel more fair? And the answers are like, you are knocked unconscious for 24 hours, right? Is that a reasonable downside? And then like, then you start justifying, well, now it can do more powerful things. And you get this weird, awkward upping yourself over and over again to be like,
knocked unconscious for 24 hours. Does that count as a long rest?
It doesn't.
No.
You have to actively rest. It'd be really funny if it did, though. Yeah. I don't know. I firmly land. And Baba, do you think, like, if you're a DM, do you ever want to have a player cast this?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. And if you're a player, like, how much do you want to have to jump through all of the, am I allowed to do this? Like, do you want to deal with the BS
I don't know that
what are they going to do to my wish if I try and make it too powerful? Like, do you want to handle that?
No, I don't know that I would take this spell.
Yeah. That's ultimately where I land on it.
Yeah.
This is a 5 out of 5. That is too powerful for its own good and too powerful for the game.
Yeah, I will agree with you 100% on that. That's actually what I was going to say. All right. Well, that was Wish. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.